Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I will continue on in my exploration of the complete collection of Tintin minus Tintin in the Congo. So now we're on Tintin in America, which is the first color Tintin in the series. As far as I know, I think the Congo one was probably colored, but it's not here. I can't see it. This is really fun for me. Like I said in the last video, Tintin was something I read obsessively when I was like 5, 6, going to the library. I remember really clearly the section that the Tintins were in. There's like a little section in the kids part of the library where they had like Garfield and Tintin and probably one other thing that I wasn't interested in. And I was always getting Tintin, and I was getting it because I was always looking for kids' books where the words were attached to the head rather than having the words like so and so said down here. And that's pretty much, looking back on it now, like how I got into comics was they were an extension of kids' books to me. And as far as I know, I was just getting the kids' books that had where it made sense that the people were actually saying what they were saying. That all that said, I don't really remember any of the stories from any of them. And reading through, like, the stories aren't that great, at least the ones that I've read, but there's some fun stuff here and there. So I'm just looking at the art, looking to enjoy it, looking at it pretty non-critically in terms of story. One thing that I'm doing in all of them is because Brandon Graham has pointed out that one of the main humor devices in Tintin is the head injury gag. I've been keeping track of those, so we don't need to take a look at every one, but I'll give a number count for each of these at the end. So this is Tintin in America. The boy reporter has gone to America, and we start in Chicago in 1931. This was done between 31 and 32. And right out on the gate on the third page here, we have a head injury with a boomerang. You'll see the art in this one is much more standard, what we expect from Hergé in terms of the clean line art. Tintin looks like Tintin. It's got all the coloring we expect, and yeah, I'm not sure that there's much development from here. I'll be curious to see. Head injury number 2 happens as a really truly masterful set of silhouettes there. I also really am just enamored with the coloring on this. Yeah, it's something about like going to that tealish color in that moment is like really, really nice to me right there. A nice little through the keyhole panel. That's always a fun one. I feel like we don't see that anymore. I was particularly taken by this 2-panel sequence where Hergé moves into a more dynamic type of storytelling. He lets the camera move around a lot more. It doesn't have the stage play feel that most everything has. Really nice, like, 3-point perspective going on here, and adds a lot of drama to just those 2 panels. I really, really wish that he wouldn't have limited himself so much to this, because when you see stuff like this, you see someone working, I think, like really, really ahead of their time. This feels very, very modern to me still. And yeah, it's too bad there's not more of that. Maybe there will be more of that later on. Maybe I have a funny conception of how this plays out that he doesn't develop much from here, but love to see more stuff like that. So good. Yeah, a sequence here that feels very much like something you would see in a Will Eisner Spirit strip with them like dumping the body. I really like this like rhythmic moment here where they kind of move up. I'm not sure why this then turns into one slope and the lamp disappears, but I do like the kind of movement and rhythm of that sequence. Continuing to talk about like the uncomfortable racial stereotypes that, as far as I know, are the reason that the Tintin and the Congo one's not printed. It's not like they don't show up in other books though. So here we have Tintin now has escaped, and he's on a road trip across America, and he goes to Redskin City. And of course, we're going to get some very classic stereotyped Native American Indians in the drawings. A very cowboy and Indian story all together. I also like this sequence here where they're crawling under the dirt in these little just black channels of dirt. I don't know why I like that, but I feel like when you're working like Hergé does in these smaller panels, pretty regimented panels, things like this then make the page like work as a composition. Something like even on this page, like why in the world these these four borders, like why this isn't lined up all the way through and like on an even grid, why there are these little offsets and stuff, I'm not quite sure. It's a little odd. But things like that that can make the page feel more thought about, to me, are what's necessary when your cartooning itself is pretty, like I said earlier, stage play. That helps make the page more dynamic. So I like this here where we're following a dynamic line across the page. Of course, we're at a story about America, so even in 1931, 32, Hergé knew we got to make this about oil. So, of course, we tap into a gigantic oil well here and it blows up and we get head injury number 19. We also get some really fun, offensive Mexican stereotype here. So we have this guy with the big sombrero on. Madre de Dios, these footsteps, they give me away. Pronto, pronto, what to do? This bandito guy here. So, I mean, it's just part of what these books were in the 30s. Given that these ones leave all of this in here, again, I don't know why the Congo one. I've not read it, so I don't know how bad it gets, but just from the historical collection purposes, it would be nice to see the full Tintin in the Congo. We got Tintin being sneaky, jumping out of a tree, whacking a guy on the head for head injury number 20. This sequence here has some more like legitimately funny stuff in it. Particularly this character here who's chasing Tintin. He says, I have a message for you, sir. Profit from our new religion. Join the brothers of Neo-Judeo-Budo-Islamo-Americanism and earn the highest dividends in the world. So it's fun to see that even by like 1930, America as the like shitty plastic corporate melting pot version of everything the world has had to offer up until now is a pretty funny idea. So I enjoyed that little jab there. This panel here is another one where I see Hergé like use depth more, which I feel like is missing in most of his art. They're often pretty depth free. And when he uses depth, I feel like his art really starts to sing. So enjoying that moment there. And you can definitely see like the influence panels like that could have had on somebody like Chris Ware, especially Adrian Tomine. There's some pretty dark humor in this sequence where Tintin has just escaped from this meat producing company called Grind Corp. And as they're walking out, there's some posters on the wall. They're saying lost black cat, lost poodle, lost shepherd dog, lost white pedigree Angora. And given what else is happening in these sequences at the meat grinding factory, it's pretty obvious that some of those puppies are in a hot dog themselves, which is a pretty dark and bleak again for a kid's cartoon in 1930. I dig it. This sequence here is really great. And it shows something that I've seen a lot in modern comics where they try and color nighttime as dark as nighttime actually is, and it winds up killing the line art. This is about as dark as you can get when you have black and white line art and not interfere with like the weight of the line art. So it's really nice to see this old school coloring where they're aware of things like that. They're using like a pretty blue to create the night sky. They're not going super dark with it. So really enjoying. I think my favorite thing in looking at this is just the color palettes that are developed all throughout. Some of the blues are a little like straight out the tube blue compared to everything else. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the color palette, and these night sequences I think are particularly beautiful. And then since I promised to keep a running head count, according to my head count, this injury here rounds the book off with head injury number 33. So 33 head injuries for Tintin in America. And then another really beautiful, like, let's cap off the book with some actual detail. and we get all of these people up in the window celebrating, and you get a look at, you know, what could have been if Hergé was like putting in that level of work into every panel rather than doing like the sensible thing and monetizing his time wisely. Selfishly, I wish we could have books full of art like that.